Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is October 5th. It's hard to believe that time goes by that fast. This is October 5th for the XPian News Daily Report. And you can see on my, see, it's to your right. It's to my, I guess it's to my right. I get my directions here. We got right next, I'll just say right next to me is Dan McNerney. And we're going to have a little fun time with Dan. I got to know Dan in the last few years here. Dan came out to my church, First Presbyterian in Aurora, and discussed various things about his ministry. And I've been very appreciative of Dan and his work, and get some of his mailings. And I just love this brother, and want to share with the audience here a little about what Dan does. Dan, you want to give us a little background on Frontier Fellowship and your background, and then we'll discuss some of our topics here.
Yeah, Frontier Fellowship was formed nearly 40 years ago. In fact, we're going to be celebrating our 40th year next year, 2021. And it was formed first just for the Presbyterian Church, helping it be active or remain active when in the areas that we call the frontiers of the world, where the gospel kind of stops and they're unreached people or people who've never had access to the good news. Few, if any, churches at all. So Presbyterians have always loved being on the frontier and exposing people to Christ for the first time. So our organization does that, and I'm one of 12 people on staff, and we spread ourselves all over the world. Some people are involved in South Asia, others in Africa, Central Asia. I happen to be the member of the team that's focused on the Middle East, and also working with Muslim groups in America. So my area of specialty is just the various people groups and religions in the Middle East. But our whole group is quite active around the world, and we're just helping local churches like yours, John, know about all the opportunities that they can get involved in. So I take groups overseas. I help people in America do bridge building with people of different ethnicities, religions, cultural backgrounds. So I'm a bit of a peacemaker, but I'm also someone who's advancing the good news of Christ too.
It sounds like you're like the Apostle Paul or something here. I mean, you're going overseas and sharing the good news and bringing peace too, and that is part of what Jesus is about. And I'm going to bring up a few topics here. We can just discuss these a little before we got on air here, but this one is probably the big one right now. Everybody's mind is COVID-19. What's that done to the ministry work of you and your other associates there at I got prison in my mind, excuse me again there, Frontier Fellowship? How's that affected COVID-19? What's that done for you, Dan? And does that sort of put you in a different way, maybe more virtual type things and other things?
Yeah,
What's they up there?
I spent a lot of time, John, overseas. As I said, taking groups. So I'll probably 3 or 4 times a year, I'll spend up to 2 weeks overseas. And I also spend a lot of time in the States, preaching and teaching in local churches like yours, helping people understand the biblical principles of being involved in frontier mission, and telling stories of what's happening in the world. So that's now, my travel has all of a sudden come to a halt, which is very, very different for me because I've been doing this job for 24 years. So I'm very active in different parts of our country and also the Middle East. And so it's thrown me, like everybody else now, into organizing Zoom conferences
Right.
with our partners overseas. I'm very fortunate that I haven't just started this ministry in the Middle East recently. In fact, I've been kind of working on some of these projects for 9 years. So it's been a new ball game getting people on conferences, but it's actually been great because Zoom gives you this opportunity to talk with anybody. I can have a Chinese, Nigerian,
Right.
Brazilian. I can have Americans. You can create these new forums,
Right.
discussion, and so it's really everyone's saying once the vaccine comes, we're probably going to have a combination now of we'll go back to traveling, but we'll also have this virtual conferencing that we just really didn't exercise as much as before.
Yeah. I'm glad you worked this out. I know you're a Zoom person, so Dan had to work with. I'm using with the Facebook here called Be Live TV, and Dan got in there, and I'm proud that he got through that.
I am
And
too.
yeah, so I knew he was Zoom. He told me that before, so that's a good. Dan, what do you think about Zoom Bible studies? I've been thinking about that. I got one friend that does that, Manny Mill. I had Manny on. He does somewhat of a Bible study. It's more of a preaching session, but what do you think about that approach too? You could have a Bible study with anybody across the world, actually.
Yeah, you just put your finger on another thing I do. I am very dedicated. I'm an ordained minister,
Right?
and with the Presbyterian Church USA still. And I've always enjoyed having men's groups and teaching men how to read the Bible and creating fellowship for men too. So I have 3 different men's Bible groups that I've been.
Oh, really? 3 of them? Wow.
This is something I kind of do on the side,
Yeah.
so to speak, but it's such a love of mine. So now all 3 of these men's groups, they all, in aggregate, they total about 35, 40 men. And some of these groups have actually grown during the pandemic
I've
because,
heard this happening. I've read this online, and I put that on my news site, XPian News. I've had various sources say that some say, oh, the pandemic is driving down the church. Some way, these other things on certain church, it just depends how you approach it, I guess, is really boosted. I mean, there's been a boost here. It can be a boost because you can get other people that would never get near a church. You know what I mean?
no, that's true, and I try to make the groups very seeker friendly, so
Yeah,
men are welcome. A lot of reading the Bible for the first time, so I try to be very local.
very interesting. Yeah.
But we get people from Arizona, New York City.
Oh, really?
We get more people because Oregon, because they've relocated recently, or they have winter homes or summer homes, and then the pandemic threw everybody into,
Right.
into all these different homes, and they were just so happy that we're still together. The pandemic can't stop the Lord. It can't stop Bible study.
Amen. I have one Zoom Bible study with the friends at my church, but it's like I have a hard time doing this one, 6 a.m. in the morning. I missed a couple of them, especially when I stay up late on a Tuesday. It's on a Wednesday morning. I stay up late on a Tuesday night. I go, oh no, I can't do this. But no, I think it's a good idea, and I know it's. And they can have little chat groups too, or little prayer groups. I think in Zoom too. I noticed. I remember Manny's group does that. Divide it up a little. If you have a big group, you can divide it up even more with a smaller group in a subgroup of the Zoom group or something like that.
Right.
So, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, wow, that's interesting about that. Now, you every so often, I don't know how often you do that, but you travel to the Middle East as like a tour group or a study group that you take, right? You take every so often, you go to the Middle East. Maybe I think Egypt was an example, I think I saw, but you do other places, you go and visit and take people along, right?
Yes. I put it under the heading of partnership development.
Uh-huh.
It's all educational, I would say, but the heart of it is for local churches, Americans, to develop strong friendships with the national leaders in Egypt or Iran or the United Arab Emirates or other countries in the Middle East. My goal is to create friendships amongst the various church leaders in the Middle East and with the U.S.
Right.
because together, we can do more. The global church needs to cooperate with each other. The more the global church knows each other, works together, the more strength there is to the gospel witness. So I'm kind of the go-between. I'm the broker guy, introducing friends to friends.
Right.
And these trips, John, end up to be often very transforming for those who go. Their eyes are open. They just had no idea before the trip what Christ was doing in the Middle East. And by the time they're done, they're just amazed. And it's just healthy to get out of your own culture into a different one for 1 or 2 weeks at a time. You can look back on your own church life with a more educated, critical eye.
Right.
I'm a big believer in promoting cross-cultural partnerships.
Right. Now, what is your understanding from your friends in the Middle East on the impact of the coronavirus there? Certain areas better than others? Or are they all being hit pretty? I don't know. I've heard Israel had a shutdown, or is going to have a shutdown. In some other countries, maybe they don't have as much, but I don't know what brings the virus. It might be tourism to certain countries. If they cut down tourism, maybe they won't have as much virus. I don't know. Certain countries maybe don't have the virus yet, but it's probably coming, but not there yet. What's your input from the Middle East there on the virus there?
Well, let me just say, first of all, when I had these initial Zoom calls in the spring, and we were checking in with our partners, it was really kind of a changing of chairs, you could say, because they were more concerned for us here in the States than we were for them in a way. I mean, they were like, "Wow, you guys in the States have higher numbers than we have,"
Right.
and they seem to be going up. And so we ended up in kind of a mutual prayer for each other.
Right.
But they were very concerned about the U.S. and it was very touching. In fact, makes the relationship more kind of equal. But to answer your question, there were pockets in the Middle East that were harder hit. Initially, the hardest hit one was Iran, and I have
Really?
yeah, it was the economic sanctions, the extreme difficulty with daily living because of a number of different factors. But the regime is extremely authoritative and
Right.
oppressive to majority of the people in the country. And so, if you don't know, the average Iranian is really struggling, period. But when you throw in a virus, it was extremely difficult for them. And so the government at first kind of ignored it or didn't know what to do with it. Then their healthcare systems are so inadequate that there was a big scare that it was going to take off. But they did get it under control eventually. The other big scare was refugee camps. There's
Oh, right. Right. Those could be hotbeds.
Yeah, there's the biggest number of displaced people in the Middle East are Yemeni
Oh, Yemen. Yeah. Right. Right.
coming out of Yemen and Syria,
Right.
those two, and Iraq. And so I've been in a lot of different refugee camps in different countries, and everyone was just scared to death that the virus could just overwhelm these camps. And in a couple of camps, that did happen. But so far, they're holding their own. In Egypt, I heard at one point that the healthcare system could not take another patient. In other words, every ICU unit in all of Cairo was occupied.
Really? Mm-hmm.
So the biggest worry about the Middle East really is, very few people have money in their bank account. There's so many displaced people. So the virus really hit people hard economically. And then also the healthcare systems are just not that great. So you can very easily tap out on the number of hospital beds in some of these countries. So they're just always on the edge. And of course, the hardest hit non-Western country today is India. And my colleagues are always praying and hoping that that virus doesn't take off there. But I'm not involved in that country, so I don't know as much.
Yeah, right. Well, India is, you're right. It's a big country, and that would be something else there also. And well, thank you for that update. I'll have to talk to I was telling Dan, I know another person who's related from the Middle East and Lebanon is my Reverend friend, Reverend Hasham Shabab. I have to ask him how Lebanon's doing in other countries and in the area. But I just been reading. I know that Israel has to get a little more strict there, what they're doing in Israel. So I figure if Israel's got that, it's got to be not too great in some other countries, because I'm sure they got some. Well, Israel probably is more fluid going back and forth from countries, so that might help bring on the pandemic more. But otherwise, their healthcare and others should be in pretty good shape. So you would think they'd be, handling it pretty well. But when they're in trouble, I guess it means some other countries around there should. I mean, it could be. It's still out there, this little guy, and we know it's out there, that virus, and we got to pay attention to that. And for some reason, God's got this. There's an interesting article on Christianity Today about Luther and the plague. Yeah, I read that. It's just, you got to read that about how he thought we should handle the plague, and maybe we got to do some things a little more proactive. And it's a long article. I can't believe it's a long letter he wrote to another friend. It's really long. And it's translated, of course, not in German, but it's pretty interesting. Well, let's go off to, I read your newsletter. I think it was on your website too, or I don't know, or your email that you sent out. I think that's what it was. I got that. I think that's how I got that. And then I read it in your newsletter about your climbing this mountain with a friend who has Parkinson's, Mount Elbert. Yeah, in Colorado. And I think your son was with you too, right? Is that right?
Right. Yep.
And so that was, give us a little background on that one. It sounded very interesting.
Well, this is actually one of those men that I mentioned earlier in the Bible studies. I get to know them extremely well that I teach. And one of them, over the years, developed Parkinson's disease. And he's my age. I'm 64. And so I was actually out to dinner with him one night, he and his wife and my wife. And he began to tell me how he's handled his Parkinson's disease. His name's Dwayne. And he says that he's involved in daily physical exercises.
That's supposed to be the way to beat it. Yep.
Yeah.
The only way to beat it. That's it.
He's in the best shape of his life. And he also, part of the exercise is boxing. And you and I talked about that. They've discovered that, neurological disorders and afflictions like Parkinson's, you respond well to, you can never stop the progression of Parkinson's. It's going to, unfortunately, they don't have a cure, and it's going to get you in the end, but you can slow down the progression.
Well, maybe you can slow it or stop it. I don't know about, I've heard some reports that it can regress from some of these exercises. But we know it could at least slow it down, maybe stop it. But yeah, it's debatable. But still, exercise is the only answer that's known, really.
Yeah. So my friend Dwayne, 2 years ago, climbed part of his exercise routine, he climbed Kilimanjaro, 19,000 feet. And he told me the story, and I was just amazed. And in climbing, he raised money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
Okay, to help out Parkinson's.
Yep, and all the money goes right into research to find a cure for Parkinson's.
Right.
And then this past year, he said he was going to climb the tallest mountain in the Rockies in Colorado, and it's called Mount Elbert, and it's only 14,443.
Only, okay.
And so he came down a notch, but that is getting my interest because I try to exercise. I like doing hiking myself, but
really? Okay.
I've never done anything that tall. So he challenged me. He said, "Do you want to join me?" And I said, next thing I know, by the end of the dinner, I said, "Yeah, I'm in." And so I started training all spring. It basically, John, it turned out to be a fantastic thing to do during the pandemic because I was outdoors all the time,
right,
hiking, walking. The group of us, we were very careful when we were together, but we were outdoors the whole time, and we climbed 14,443 feet. We raised, I think, about $20,000 in total.
okay.
Parkinson's research, and we just raised awareness, and I'm thank you for asking me that because there's some very positive things you can do to fight back against this very difficult disease.
Right. How long did it take you to do this climb? Was it 1 day, 2 days? How long? Or?
No, we did it in 1 day. It was probably a total of 10 or 11 hours, going all the way up and all the way back down. We didn't climb from the zero. We climbed from about 10,000 feet. So our elevation was just 4,400 feet approximately. But the biggest obstacle you have is altitude sickness.
Right.
You have to be in shape. You have to, I took some medicine to help with the odds that I'd be okay. You have to do some specific training. But we did have 3 people get the altitude sickness. You never know when it's going to hit you.
Yeah, I was thinking myself having a little high blood pressure might not be too good to do it.
Yeah. Well, you do have to ask yourself if you can. I mean, some people, the older they get, the knees don't quite work. And
oh, well, I've had that, but I've conquered that, I think. I did have that. Dan, I was out in California about a year ago at Christmas time, and all of a sudden my one knee went bad, arthritis. I mean,
oh boy,
I almost crippled. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk hardly.
Oh,
I gave me some shots and everything, and when I got back, I was not too great. And finally, I got some shots on my knee and started exercising the knee, and it's been good since then. I don't even know I had that problem, but
I'm glad you got over it.
Yeah, but I mean, you wouldn't want to get a bad knee walking up a mountain, that's for sure.
No. We had one guy who was really hurting the whole time. So
really? That's too bad. Yeah, and so you raised some good money there, and your friend he keeps going though, huh? He keeps it's like that Energizer bunny rabbit. I mean, he just keeps going, huh?
Well, the best part about it, John, and this is the article that I wrote, was he views it very spiritually. That you.
All right, I understand.
You either in what I called in my article, you either embrace your enemy or you run from it or you hide, and so I was just couching it in those terms, that the Lord wants us to turn and love our enemy, meet the challenge, whatever it is in life, because he will be with you. So Dwayne's whole walk with Parkinson's has deepened his Christian faith a lot, because he has to keep life very simple, very disciplined, and have his walk with the Lord be very, very strong, because you could easily collapse and get morose and depressed. Right. And so he's doing everything he can to hit it head on, you could say.
Yeah, we'll have to talk afterwards. I have to get this. Maybe you can connect with my people down in Aurora. We need to keep each other inspired with my boxing club friends there. Yep. In Aurora. And I thank you for sharing that. And it was now, Dan, you mentioned this. We'll discuss this, and we're just moving on here. But Dan did touch a little on this about his work with other ministries, and he works locally trying to bridge gaps between Muslims and Christians. And explain some of those things that you do there, Dan. I know you're up in the north side there, north of Chicago, so you have some interaction with some imams and other mosques and things like that, right? And just tell us what you're doing there.
Yeah, I like many Americans, I think, were very bewildered, confused, and maybe made very angry by the events of September 11th, 2001.
Right.
That was really the beginning of my journey with the Muslim world. I began to sense that either Americans were going to be very confused, ignorant, judgmental with Muslims that were in the U.S. I mean, there's 8 to 9 million Muslims in the United States, and so I felt very called, you could say, to learn more about Islam. So I started a whole Islam study group in the northern suburbs here of Chicago, got speakers, we did a lot of reading. So I thought, I just have to learn more about Islam because I don't want to judge every Muslim the same way. We know about the terrorists and the fundamentalists, but are there peaceful Muslims? Anyways, after doing a lot of study and involving my local church, the Village Presbyterian Church in Northbrook, we decided to knock on the door of our local mosque here in Northbrook. We have been now in a 13-year relationship with this mosque. We've done holy book studies together, we learning more about Islam, they learning more about Christianity. We've had big dinners during our high holy holidays together. We've done joint humanitarian projects together. And the whole idea is to, instead of being fearful of each other, demonizing each other, and even hating each other, we're structuring a relationship where we can listen to each other, learn from each other. We don't have to back down from our own faith. We can be full throttle Christians and they can be full throttle Muslims. But as we like to say, we'll let the Spirit of God sort out what's true. So we're very.
We know what's true, so we know who's going to win. Okay.
Well, we feel very strong about our relationship with the Holy Spirit, so we do a lot of praying.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I had to throw that in. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. So, it's just it's honoring people, listening to people.
Right. That's very good.
It's giving Christians an opportunity to learn more about their own faith too. So this has just turned into a ministry for me. I help churches develop relationship with mosques or local Muslim communities. You and I were talking earlier in Evanston. There's a Presbyterian church that is working with 60 Syrian refugee families. So it doesn't have to be a mosque. It can be refugees. It can be a mosque. It could be students. But the whole idea is embrace them, learn from them, share your own faith with them, and let the Lord lead you.
Right. It's very good. I know there's several mosques, more than several. Maybe several is I don't want to make that a small word, but the south suburbs have a lot of Muslims too. My understanding from my friend Hisham. Is that correct? The south suburbs?
Yes. In the Palos Park area and some of those other areas near there, there's and that's part of my education. I just for us to learn, are they South Asian? Are they Pakistani? Are they Bosnian? Are they
Palestinian?
Yeah, Palestinian. Are they Indian?
Right. Well, there's a whole that's true. There's different backgrounds, and I've learned that there could be racism between different Muslim groups by things too. I mean, they have some of that too. I mean, it's
Very,
not,
very, very much so. You learn a ton, but you can't learn that in a book. You have to learn it through
be
friendships.
on the street, as they say, or whatever,
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, uh-huh.
anyways, I just encouraged Christians to love their neighbors as themselves.
Right.
Even love if enemies if you perceive them that way. But there's no excuse for running from people that are different from ourselves.
Yeah. My friends at World Relief, I think that was one of their statements: do not be afraid
Yeah.
of your neighbor, or that way. So I think that's very good what you're doing there, Dan. Dan's got several things we just discussed. And if you want to learn more about Dan's ministries, you can go to the website, frontierfellowship.com, and you can click on the staff part, and then you can see Dan's, some of the stuff about Dan there. And so that's at frontierfellowship.com. And if you just want to really get on and write sooner yet, you can email Dan here. We got his email here, and you can see that and give him an email. And Dan, I just appreciate you taking some time on this Monday afternoon to be with me. And I just want to say one thing. That church that you're going to, I think that's where my former pastor went to, too, that village, Pastor Cal Markham, many years ago.
That's right. That's right. Cal was laid a beautiful foundation for our church in his ministry, and
you remember him, huh?
Yeah, he was actually he was going just when I was kind of.
That's what I was going to say, but you do remember him a little.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great man. He passed away a few years ago, and he had an influence on me to come to the First Press, and he knew so many people, Dan. He knew Billy Graham. He got his wife to come out to my church. He got to know Robert Schuller, got his wife to come out. I think we had Ralph Winter that started your.
Yes.
I think he might have had him out to the First Press. He just seemed to know everybody, or he tried to know everybody. Maybe that's the other thing. And he had been with, what am I thinking? Youth for Christ when it started. And he was down from Springfield, and he got to know Billy Graham that way. So anyway, he was an inspiration for me. So it's an interesting sidebar. Sorry, got that. But remember to get Dan, give him an email, and we'll see you. Hopefully, I might not be on at 5. We might be 5:30. We might skip on Wednesday. I got a dentist appointment, guys. These teeth are. We get a little older. I got a teeth appointment. I had to get in, so sorry. And a couple other things before we say goodbye to Dan here. I'm going to say goodbye to Dan in just a moment here. One other thing, remember the free flu shots on Friday. I'll put that right up in the middle here. I think I'll go on the side. It goes on the side. Free flu shots at Phillips Park in Aurora. Remember, that's on Friday afternoon. It's be noon to 4 this Friday. Free flu shots done by the Visiting Nurses Association. So that's on Friday. And then, of course, I'm going to do my civic duty. I'm going to do my voting here. I got my mail-in ballot. So start thinking about your vote for 2020 and get that going. And if you're not registered, I think today's the deadline, and maybe later on you can get still in there, but it's called, what they call the ballots. But anyway, it's sort of, they set them aside, but you can get it, still vote, but it's a little more difficult. But well, anyway, that's that. We want to thank Dan for being with us, Mr. Dan. Thank you so much. It was a blessing to have you this afternoon with us, and we'll keep informed more about your ministries. You keep in touch here more, and I just want to thank Dan. And so all I can say right now is thank Dan and for being with us. And all I'm going to say right now is God bless everybody out there, and bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.